Money boy. Kabamba, I thought was a winger on stage. Was it not?
I'm all in one, Joey, all in one.
Okay. Jonah, we're going to get going.
Yeah, man.
I just want to mute someone. I don't know who it is. You see how I struggle with the back? This is Somali boy now that's making a noise.
Is it him?
Yeah, and David. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to just a technical session on the ruck. And thanks, firstly, Jonah, for availing yourself and making time available. So this started just as a personal project to equip myself and have a discussion with Jonah, and then it grew. So thanks for David for that. So myself and Jonathan go way back at the Leopards Day. I'm actually the guy that he hated the most because I was part. I did the video analysis and with Skulk, and at that time, Jacques Swanepoel had a rule. So my role was specifically looking at the referee and discipline and penalties. And we had to identify which penalties for the sake of a penalty, it didn't impact the team positively. It was a negative impact. And Jonah was always on the list. And for each of those penalties, you got a 500 rand fine. So every Monday, I had to submit a list with all these 500 rands to Pete, was the manager at that time.
Yeah,
so
Peter.
Cut from their pay. And Jonah's name was on that list every week, sometimes even more than once. So that's how we connected and we kept contact. So Jonah, thanks for making yourself available, and thanks for the friendship over the years, and well done on what you achieved in rugby. And also coaching my alma mater, which is the PUC, which is always special. There might be Marty supporters in here, but I still proudly support the PUC.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah, and thanks and I know this is quite a passion for you, and there's one of my good mates said, I don't know if you can recall when you played for Primrose at one stage.
Yeah.
You rucked him, and he's still recovering from it. So I can clearly see this as a passion. And Jonah said, Kabamba, I don't know how many truth is in it. He said he'll jump between Afrikaans and English because you might not catch on some of the English. So maybe that's an internal joke. I'm not sure, but I'll leave it at that.
So much truth in that. So much truth.
Maybe you can elaborate on that.
French. You must go to French, please.
Yeah, I must say, Kabamba, you and this bitch look very alike. Eh? So maybe I will speak some French just for you to understand as well. So yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Wilbur, again, thanks for creating this platform. I think it's it's really a great opportunity just to share. And again, let me start off by saying that this is how I see rucking and breakdown. This is not someone else's. This is how I see it, and this is what I believe and how I coach in terms of getting my rucking principles and generating quick ball. So I've had obviously with the new laws. I think there's a lot of interpretation, and breakdown has always been a gray area where coaches and referees interpret certain things differently. So I've gone and I've put something together that I believe should give your team some proper clarity in terms of what is expected and their roles and responsibility around the breakdown. So again, this is me. This is not someone else. This is not someone else's lead. This is how I see it. And you guys are welcome to, at any time, when I mention or show a slide, that you guys can stop and ask questions, critique it. I'm all for that because that's how I'm going to get better. And so I hope that when we walk away, that at least we're going to think differently about the breakdown. Or even you're going to say, John, this is a bunch of nonsense. But again, this is a passion that Wilbur said that I like when it comes to forward play. And also, let me say this: when I get excited, which I am going to do, I kind of speak fast and I move along quickly. So if you're unsure or you're not, you want to ask me a question on anything that I'm presenting, please stop. I don't mind. I'll come back. I've set out 2 hours. this morning, just to get proper clarity and to get the message across of how I, Jonathan Mokeuna, see the breakdown. All right, so I want to start the session by making this statement, and the statement is as follows. It's that you know, the just hold on, what's happening here now? So the statement that I want to make is voila.
So now,
Oh, don't worry. There we go. I'll just click.
there we go. There we go. Yes.
No worries. So the statement I want to make is that, and I know Coach Joey will love this, is that a ruck and a breakdown should only happen if and when the defense has done their job. Now, of course, as we all know it, that, you know, defenses are becoming more street smart. They're lining you up, and they are kind of setting you up so you can take the option that they want you to take. However, as someone who's attacking, there's still spaces that I think you can really exploit if you're smart enough and you realize where the spaces are. Okay, so the other thing why I say this is, if you have the option and the skill set to keep on offloading and dominating contact, then why should you actually put up a ruck or breakdown? So again, it comes down to you having the skill set on manipulating the space that's in front of you and to keep that consistency flowing, because defenses, they want to set up and want you to slow down so that they can set up and then they can be in charge. Now, if I have had the choice, especially with the new laws, how referees interpret it, you know, it's the breakdown is really becoming an area where if you don't focus so much attention, don't give so much attention on it, then it can actually you know, hinder your attack flow, like David spoke about in his presentation. So it's no use to get your line out and you launch, but you don't know what to do from that. All right. So when we walk away today, these are the three things that I'm going to speak about. So the three things is the space awareness targets, the roles and responsibilities within your shape or within your cleaning, as you would say it, and then the principles surrounding slow ball and pick and go play. Now, let me just two steps back. When we talk about the slow ball play, obviously there's certain things and ways how you could generate quick ball there as well. And I think that for me is where the forwards, Kabamba and Rito and those guys, they will probably see a little bit more value in that than the backline coaches. When I get to that segment, feel free to get up and go make yourself some coffee. Okay. So I went on and I took some stats for Super Rugby 2020. That's now before before the COVID kicked in, and then I took the first round of the Aotearoa Super Rugby tournament. And the big thing for me that stood out was how the Chiefs managed to actually up their ruck speed from 4 seconds to 2.8. Now again, the Chiefs didn't win that game, but I think if you look at the watch and you really analyze the game, they really had enough opportunities from good ball that they could have gone on and actually win that game. So in saying that, you know, if you get good quick ball, it doesn't mean that you're just going to go on and win the game. You still need to have a plan surrounding what happens after you get the quick ball. And I think that's where the attack coaches and the breakdown coach need to work hand in hand, so that a coach like David Manuel, who's got plans to attack when they get over the advantage line, has actually got a total control. the options of that. Okay, but the principles with your rucking and making sure that you get the ball still stays the same. So we'll see a common shape that a lot of teams use is 2 forwards with a back. You're giving you that out the back option, or the tip ball to the forward on the outside, and then obviously the shoulder ball where the main ball carrier on the inside. If we're playing off the ruck from the left hand side, the main ball carrier, goes to engage the defense and then plays that short ball for the forward running off him. Okay, I think that's probably the most common shape that we see. And then in the UK, they like using this one where the forwards are quite flat. The 10 has got the option to play either the middle forward or play across his face to the outside forward and then trying to get over the advantage line. And all these options has obviously got pros and it's got cons. But for the sake of me demonstrating what I believe, I'm only going to focus on one specific shape. Okay. So let's say we've got a defense set up with a normal 3 forwards and the back, for the outside option. All right. So the first space that I believe we need to win is the home ground space. Now, what is the home ground space? The home ground space for me is your half of the advantage line before you get the ball. And I'll tell you why, and I'll go into depth just now why I say that for me is the first place we need to win. Then we need to win, if you can, the king space. Then our queen space. Now, these 3 spaces for me is so important that if you understand what you want here and how you're going to get there, you could probably generate quick ball 80% of the time if you understand what it is that you want to dominate when you go or when you're receiving the ball of 9 or of 10. Okay, some of the advantages of the home ground space, and I think we're going to probably we can spend some time on this. And again, if I move too fast, just stop me, ask questions, or critique if you want to. So some of the advantages of this space is that when you receive the ball, you've got time to move and manipulate the defense on how you want it. All right. So if you can think about you as an attacker, receiving the ball and then getting the ball and having enough time to move into that space where you want to go to create that same side. Okay. The other advantage is when you dominate that space, the defense will be in doubt. Okay. Because defenders come hard off the line. All right. So they want to make the tackle and obviously get on the advantage line or stop you on the other side in your home ground space. They will come. But if you manage to keep them in doubt, in engaging them, letting them sit on the back foot and then changing direction, that's what you want. All right. The most likely thing from when you dominate your home ground space is that you will probably get over the advantage line. Now, a lot of teams, they say, coaches say, stand deeper, stand deeper, stand deeper. And yeah, there's probably I want to get over the advantage space as soon as possible and as quick as possible.
Jono, we lost you there for a couple of seconds.
The chances of you getting a quick ball. Okay, so where did you lose me?
Just go back to the you.
So was it at the king space
or
where did you lose me?
You spoke about playing deeper, spill deeper.
Okay.
To that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thanks,
so what I was saying, a lot of times, coaches say to their forward, speel dieper in hardloop harder, speel dieper in hardloop harder. Now again, there is merit to it, but I'm not pro for om dieper te staan en om harder te hardloop. I'd rather say go a little bit flatter, win the home ground space, and use good evasion skill to get into the king space. All right. Because if you think about it, let's just use this picture in front of us. If you think, okay, the guy opposite him, the defender right opposite him, he's already engaged. And that's only because he's receiving the ball and looking what's ahead of him. Okay. So the guy you want to surprise is actually the adjusting defender. Okay. Because a lot of teams will have either a double tackle, or they will contest from the inside out and not from outside in. Make sense? Okay. So you, as a ball carrier, would want to firstly eat the home ground space, then attack the king space, which gives which I'll talk about later, our fireman a clear option and a clear target to clean. Okay. And then we can play from there. Now, the queen space is probably not our first choice of where we want to go. When we go there, 60% of the time, the defense will be in charge. Why do I say that? When they go there to the queen space, it's easy for the defense to fold, okay? And probably the inside man has got a better and a stronger base to hit and make a proper tackle. That will then create a mess at the breakdown, and the inside support player now has to adjust, which probably will make your queen ball a slow ball. Let me go back. So a lot of times our turnovers will happen because our ball carrier, which is the main guy, went up straight, okay? And he created a slow ball, or when he goes into the queen space, which then allows the inside guy to contest. And more so with the new laws and the new regulations that the referees are looking at. I don't know how many of you guys actually had, watched the games over the weekend, and how many penalties at the breakdown actually was given to the defending side rather than the attacking side. And the reason is because the law now says that you have one chance as an attacker to place the ball or get the ball away. Okay, so the ideal way, or ideally, you would want to eat the home ground space and then attack the king space. Now, when you attack the king space, the big thing is that you need to get over the advantage line and or on the outside of your defender and on the inside of the adjusting defender getting in behind him. Now, I want to quickly just take 2 seconds and just demonstrate something that I don't know if you guys can see me. So I'm just going to use these 3 fans. Okay. So let's say this is your main defender. This is the inside defender, and I'm the adjusting defender. So ball coming from that side. Okay. So this would be your queen space. All right. This would be your king space. Okay. And your home ground would obviously be determined from how the ball carrier uses evasion to get into the space. Okay. So here's the thing. Why, for me, the first prize would be my king space. Okay. Is because, again, like I said, the main defender is already locked onto the ball carrier. So I'm the one that I want, or the adjusting defender is the guy that we want to surprise. Okay. That's why it's important to work with your forwards or whoever's carrying ball to accelerate from receiving ball into this space. Okay, so when you surprise me, okay, one of the reasons why it's important to get into and to generate that quick ball is when you surprise me, the chances of me, okay, making a proper tackle and having to turn my shoulders is probably 70% of the time when engaging into a tackle. But for my supporting players and players that needs to clean, it gives me a proper target, because now all of a sudden me turning gives him a bigger turn, gives me ribs, gives me hips, gives me knees, and we can smash them over the ruck, okay, which then creates a bit of a mess. They can't fold, the fold is a little bit slow, and the inside player of the attacker, which is the policeman, and I'll chat about it now, can come and then play, or the 9 can play, depending on what happened here. So again, I'll go over it again. If we can get the adjusting player to turn his shoulders, okay, carrying in there, trying to get involved, gives us a proper target, smash over the breakdown, balls clear, boom, gone. Okay. Any questions so far, gentlemen?
Yes, there's a question here. Why so many fans in your house, Jonathan?
It's hot. It's hot at night, Villa.
Jonna?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, it's Joey. Before you go on, I think you made a vital point about that the ball carrier is only allowed to make one movement. In your system, does that change the way what we coach the ball carrier to do on the ground? Because in the past, we always said score the try, like fall forward, then fight to place. How has that dynamic, how's the rule change that dynamic of the ball carrier?
So for me, Joey, a very good question. For me, the big thing now, the big focus now from ball carrier is to fight harder and longer to get into that space. So where we said that in the past, where you said go fight through, score the mini try, and then the recall, I would say after the tackle, don't just accept the tackle has been made. So fight through, fight as long as hard as possible through the space, and then fall and present. But that fall and present has got to be so dynamic that if you're into that space, you almost have the ability as well to look for the offload. Does that answer your question, Joey?
It does, Jonna. Thank you very much. It does. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything anders, mannen?
No, I think there's no questions in the chat as well, so we're good to go.
Okay. All right. So this, I quickly want to show you the sequence of play, and I want to give you some context of what happened in this game. This is last week's game, the Chiefs against the Highlanders. Okay. So Highlanders tried to exit. They didn't exit. Chiefs get the ball in the edge. They set it up in the ruck. Okay. And so now I want you to have a look at what I just spoke about in terms of the spaces that the Chiefs tried to create, and also whether they did create and what happened next. Okay, so just to give you some context, in the first clip, obviously they've got the shape, which is the 8, right in the corner, a guy with a band around the head, and then your inside cleaner. On the defensive side, they had your 1 and 2, your A and B, okay, which obviously watches 9, and then the third guy getting onto first hands, all right, and then the fourth guy, adjusting defender, all right. For me, the Chiefs and number 8, he fairly did good enough to get into the king space, which was between the third defender and the fourth defender. Okay, as you can see, the fourth defender in the second clip, he tried to adjust, but he wasn't really sure whether he should or whether he was going to be able to put in a positive hit. Okay, the out on the attacking side, the 7, okay, who is the fireman, and I'll give some roles and clarities now when I speak further. He identified the space or the opportunity, but he wasn't really clear and fast enough to actually turn away, because there was about 4 or 5 seconds to properly get this guy, the fourth defender with the scrum cap, away and create a quick ball. So in this instance, the Highlanders got away because the number 4 scrum cap, which number 7 should have cleaned, he managed to contest and get the turnover ball. Okay, so I didn't use the clip, the video footage in this instance, because unfortunately on Zoom and internet it doesn't really give us some good quality. So I really just decided just to get some screenshots and try and explain and elaborate my point in terms of being clear and the spaces that can be won if there's clarity. Now, if you look at the last clip, for me, I blame this turnover solely on the fact that number 7, which was the outside cleaner, was too slow to react to the breakdown, and he wasn't aware of the situation that was happening in front of him. Because there was no way that number 8 carrying or ball carrier had the ability to give an offload. Okay, so he should have been really, really smart in terms of creating and seeing that number 8 is not going to offload. So all I've got to go is go in there and smash and secure ball and win the space over the ball. Okay. So I spoke about the responsibilities. So some of the things that I measure my ball carriers with, okay, depending on which position you are, is the head. He's responsible for winning that space. Okay. Then he's also responsible to use good evasion to get into the king space, because that's first prize, like I said. Okay. When he gets into that contact, he needs to look for the offload. Obviously, depending on, has he dominated contact? Could he evade properly? Could he step? Could he use his mobility to get into that space? If not, then it's fine. Okay. But then, once you get post-contact, that's where the further magic happens. If you check, there's no offload. Now you got to fight to present as quick as possible and as dynamic as possible. Because again, referees are pedantic now. When the contest is over, the first man in, and it just shows the picture that they speak about, that he's there to steal the ball. Okay, he's in turnover for the defending side. Hence, I'm going to put, and again, I have put a lot of emphasis on the ball carrier to be as dynamic as possible, to fight for every single inch when you get the ball, when you carry, and when you get in behind defense. Okay. My fireman, okay, he's got to look, is there an offload? Okay, is there offload ability? Is there a 2v1 defense? So let's say my main ball carrier, he got into he tried to get into the king space, but unfortunately the defense, like certain defenses, was good. One went low, one went high, okay, and they kind of tried to smother the ball. He's got to see, okay, there's a 2v1, my ball carrier is not there. What to do now? So for me, my fireman's got to see, okay, there's 2v1, let's smash, let's get away the adjusting defender, so that we again can make the 2v1 a one-on-one with the defender and the ball carrier. All right. Then my policeman, okay, again, 2 steps, 2v1 situation has happened. My adjusting defender, which is a little bit smaller guy, he got in there, but he's not really clear. My policeman has got to get in there, start the engine, and why I say start the engine, so he's got to literally smash, get in there, get one of the defender's legs or the main defender's leg lifted a little bit, and then keep working towards their touchline. That creating the mall to collapse, and then hopefully the ref will say use it 9, and we still have the ball. All right. So that's basically in terms of what I believe how to create quick ball and generating a quick ball. So I'm going to move on to the slow ball.
Jonah, can I just ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So if the aim is always to attack the king space,
yes,
that the policeman could maybe be in a jockey position behind the head in order to generate that quick ball. But then the only negative of that is you don't have a minus option to play inside of it. But you don't want to achieve that because you want quick ball. So that policeman could actually so then he's not an option. He's actually there to generate that quick ball. And then you've got the fireman as a...
Yes, but remember, so like I said, some defenses will be smart. So some defenses will line up on the outside of the ball carrier, hence forcing him into the queen space. Okay, so if he goes into the queen space, then the policeman is there to be the man on fire, or then their roles will change, and then he will then be the fireman securing the ball in the first place.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
it makes sense. But so the ideal world is you actually just want to attack that king space, but it doesn't happen like that because it's a dynamic game.
It's a dynamic game, and obviously defenses are small.
Yeah, you need to react towards that. Now, thanks for that.
Yeah.
In saying that,
if I can maybe just add that, obviously the catch-up defender may not necessarily always do the job. So if the catch-up defender, stays on his heels, doesn't come up with the main defender, that's where you've got that minus space as well for the head to play the policeman. And I mean, you've seen how many times where defense has been, found wanting, where the catch-up defender was lazy to come up, come up with the line.
Yeah. Jumani, I almost feel that defenses are getting better coming up on the inside. And Joey, you can jump in here if you want to say, if you want to add on something. I almost feel that again that defenses are coming better. They're becoming stronger on coming from the inside. I also feel that the big hits, when you play inside, almost happens more from the inside. Okay. The other option that I forgot to mention is also, how getting into that king space is when the head space, he wins the home ground and then plays that little tip pass with the fireman punching it in there as hard as possible. Make sense? So I don't know whether you guys watched the Hurricanes. The first game of the Hurricanes, there was when they scored on the outside. There was, I think, Dan Cole's received and he made the tip pass to the hooker of the Blues, or the hooker. It was the Blues actually. So they received in a similar shape. The head got the ball. He made the tip pass. He punched out into that king space. Immediately, the defense went from having a solid positive line to a little bit of a broken line, getting in behind them, and then the Blues played from there. Okay. Any more questions?
There's a question from Coach Joey. So, or just observation, most steal penalties in the first 2 weeks of the New Zealand Super Rugby have been made by the catch-up defender.
Yes, exactly that. And that's why the king space is so important to win, because referees, again, I don't want to bank referees or shoot them down. They don't have a clear picture or understanding of actually what's happening at the breakdown. So for them, it's about seeing a picture and then deciding what's happening there. I've always said that, you know, for me, if the contester is not in a position to really lift the ball, then he shouldn't be rewarded for being there. If he's there and he gets a goal in the first place and lifts the ball, then he's in charge. Then I say give him the penalty. But if it's just there and he's just laying there and waiting to be clean, then I don't think. I mean, there was about 2 or 3 penalties over the weekend, which I thought that's a little bit shaky or shady, because the contestant was there, but I think position to actually lift the ball and actually turn over the ball. So for me, that was a bit of a headache. Any other questions, Vala?
No questions and observations yet, so you can continue.
All right. So
okay, here's another question. Sorry, John. Here's a question.
No, all good.
What would be better, lifting the ball or pulling it into the attacker? I'm not sure what is meant. Maybe just to try and force the offload. John, I'm not sure if you can maybe explain it better. What would be better, lifting the ball or pulling it into the attacker? I'm not sure.
So again, I've got a thing that I coach, and it's probably a little bit illegal, but unfortunately, referees are forcing my hand when it comes to contesting, and I've shared this with some of the guys. So let's say I'm the contester. Okay, so I'm over the ball. Okay, so let's say the ball came from that side, and the referee's on my right-hand side. Okay, I will contest with the hand showing towards the referee. So if it's that side, I'm going to contest with this side. Okay, but my left hand is going to be on the ground as long as possible. Referees are looking at me making an effort. Meanwhile, I'm actually supporting myself with my left hand that he's not seeing, and then trying to kind of make a noise. Mr. Ref, ball holding. Meanwhile, I'm actually legal. Does it answer the question?
I think so. Just WhatsApp John to provide a bit of clarity, but maybe that I think that's what he meant. Well,
Jonathan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, what I mean about lifting the ball and pulling it into the attacker, I spoke to Henry du Plessis when he was at Boland, and one of his suggestions was it's all about the tension when it gets to the ref. Some guys like him go in with their hands and lift the ball up, which a clear intention is you are trying to repossess the ball. But he said the other thing is if you go in to try to steal the ball, he says try to pull the ball into the attacker, which shows the ref that the attacker is actually holding down the ball. So that's why I'm asking, what is better, lifting the ball or pulling it into the attacker? It's all about the tension.
Yeah, good question. Good question. But for me, I always look at it. Why do you want to contest? So you want to contest to get the ball back.
Correct.
So I wouldn't coach my boys to pull it into the defender. I want the ball, because that means they in an attacking mindset. Okay. So when I turn the ball over, I've got the ability to keep them guessing and keep them staggered on what's happening.
Okay.
So if I get over the ball, I want the ball. I want to turn the ball. I'm not gonna play with the referee, because who says that the referee is actually, when you're doing that, or when you're pulling it into the defender or the attacker, who says the referee, again, gray area? So you take away that gray area, you get in, you get the ball as hard as possible. If the referee decides that you're not good enough, so be it. But if you can get in there and turn it over for us, for my team to have a go, first prize.
Good.
Make
Thank you.
sense? Good stuff. So I'm going to move on, gentlemen. Okay. So this is where all the forwards is going to be a little bit more exciting. Okay. So let me say this. When it comes to slow ball play, the principle still stays the same. However, you as the attacking team who's got the ball has already eaten up the home ground space. So all you got to do is get into a outside shoulder of a to create quick ball. On the other side, a lot of teams flood the slow ball because they want to get their hands over and try and slow it or turn it over. And this is also an area where referees go, okay, turn over a defensive ball. Okay, so for me, as you can see in this picture, and I'm just creating a scenario and with this picture of how I coach the breakdown, and especially and even the slow ball play. So if you look at this picture, you'll see that the defense was fairly in a strong position. Okay. However, because the ball carrier with the scrum cap, he understood that he now had to go on the outside shoulder of the defender. That's creating to create a quick ball and give himself a fair opportunity to create the ball and present. He understood that he needed to get on the outside shoulder. All right. What also happening in this picture is that the fact that 5 actually presented himself as an option if the scrum cap guy decided, let's say I'm going to just go slightly and then play the plus for him to punch off the receive the ball and punch into the contact. However, that didn't happen. Okay. What happened and what happened was that there was a 2-on-1 situation. So firstly, the ball carrier got on the outside shoulder of the first defender. Okay, adjusting defender managed to get to join. Okay, but this is how we manage to generate a 2-on-1 into a 1-on-1 situation, like I've mentioned earlier. All right. So my scrum cap guy, he picked up the ball, went on the outside shoulder, tick, happy with that. Okay. 5, availing himself, being an option, tick, happy with that. 5, realizing there's a 2-on-1 situation and flying into that ruck, tick, happy with that. Okay. Then identifying the real threat, which was the adjusting defender. All right. So if you go to the next clip, you'll see 5 did what he needed to do, saw the space, saw there was a 2-on-1 onto the ball carrier, cleared the threat. Immediately, that 2-on-1 now became a 1-on-1. The ball carrier, which was a scrum cap guy, he could have maybe fallen a little bit differently, maybe with on his other shoulder and his legs toward the other touchline, a little bit more parallel, and then for the 9 to play, okay? Or he could have maybe just fought a little bit harder, okay? But because the 5 understood what was happening around the collision, he then came into the bailout of the ball carrier, okay? Then my 6, who was part of the previous ruck, then came in as a policeman and secured that little slow ball play and ensuring that we could get the ball back. And that's it, gentlemen. Any questions? Any add-ons? Any critiques?
Jonah, so I want to start off with a question that links to the recycling time. How do you determine that recycling time? Because and I'm glad Coach Joey is here, because a defense coach will always advocate tackle fight.
Yes.
Shouldn't include the tackle fight as part of the recycling time, because even though you create, let's say there's a good fight and you create quick ball, but that good fight gave the opportunity to the defense to set. So even though you achieve good recycling time, the defense is already set, so it's not going to provide you with extra option. So shouldn't recycling time be determined from the initial contact and then until the ball is in the nine's hands? Because now at the moment we're looking at recycling time when the ball is under, so when the ball is on the deck or when the ruck is formed and the cleaners arrive. So that doesn't necessarily give you more options, because it starts with that tackle fight. So my mind is working overtime, especially if you look at the Chiefs stats. Even though they generated quick ball, they didn't win the game. So couldn't that be due to the tackle fight that was created by the defensive team? And by fighting, they had more numbers on their feet in order to defend.
Spot on. So for me, I know a lot of teams, or a lot of stats companies use different point systems on how they create quick ball. From some teams, some steps, some companies will go from when the ball carrier picks up the ball got in hand. Some will measure from collision. Some will measure from after collision till present and until it's in the nine's hands. For me, I like measuring it when the contact happens. All right, because again, if I go back to the roles and responsibilities, one of the other things is that he's got to fight to get the ball away. It's not good enough for you just going into contact and just falling down and presenting. It's got to be so dynamic. Everything he's got to do has got to be dynamic. So you know, when I'll take this back to my sevens days, when we played sevens, Paul Troll always spoke about giving that extra role. Now, unfortunately, that role is not there. Okay, so now there's got to be a bigger responsibility on being dynamic in contact and then presenting the ball. So everything from contact to presenting, that's going to be for me almost heaven. And it also gives me as a coach a checklist. Did he fight? Did he present? Did he was he aggressive enough? You know, so those are all questions that I can ask him when I have a one-on-one with him.
Just on that, I think if you look at recycling time just in isolation, it's not going to give you a true reflection. And what you described now is actually what we should be doing. It starts with that initial contact, then that fight, because you want to determine that quality of fight. So if that's a good fight, you'll generate quick ball. So maybe we should break it up, recycling time, into two stages. Maybe contact to deck, and then maybe deck to hand, and that will give you a better reflection of your recycling time.
Possibly.
Thanks for that.
Jonah, just to go back, we obviously spent a lot of time on the pre-contact. You know, when it comes to that home ground space, man. You know, just to go back to my point on the options, obviously, I think our references will also be different because we coach at different levels. You know, the inside or the catch-up defender, maybe at a higher level, they are more alert, and
yes,
you know, the defenses are improving at that level. And I mean, Joey made a point here that most steals and penalties in the first 2 weeks of the Super Rugby came from inside. But if you are coaching at First Division Currie Cup, I mean, I'll send you a couple of clips where we've exposed team with that minus option. So I think it depends on what level one is coaching at as well, where you may focus a lot. And I mean, I also coach attacking that outside shoulder, but also having that inside option because of how lazy defenders are, those catch-up defenders are. So would you say that it perhaps depends on what level one is coaching at as well?
Yeah, spot on, Chumani. I think obviously with your analysis and pre-game analysis, you'll see areas of attack where when you do analysis on team, and if it means that the head has gotta give it back inside, then so be it. But for me, it's all about the principles of how of what, because the thing is, you might get away with let's say 2-3 inside balls. Okay. After the 4th or 5th time, that defender will obviously start waking up. Now you got to go to your king.
Yeah.
And when you get to the king, that role and functional roles around that has got to be explosive and dynamic and measurable.
Sure. No, thanks, Jonah.
Okay, so I've got another question, Jonah.
No, ask, bro, ask.
So how does you spend a lot of time on the attacking breakdown? What is your philosophy with regards to the defensive breakdown? How do you approach the breakdown?
Yeah, this is again how, because I think the attacking breakdown is probably one of the easier, but when it comes to the defense breakdown, you have to sit down with your defense coach, because obviously he's got a certain philosophy with how he wants to defend. But if it was me, I would work with my main defender to cut mark. So you've got to basically make your tackle and fight and barge and ruk en pluk en jy moet regtig 'n gemors maak van hy breakdown after your tackle or after the contact for as long as possible. That will ensure that obviously the attack then sends in numbers om jou uit te kom sort. But meanwhile, if you can do that, then your job is done. I think a prime example of this is Adi Savia. One for me, he doesn't make a lot of turnovers, but if he makes a tackle, hy's in, hy ruk, hy pluk en hy's klaar. Want he understands that it's not just about getting the ball back, it's also about getting the numbers to the breakdown. Make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely makes sense.
Wilbur, can I ask a question? Rito here.
Yes,
Oh, Rito.
Hey, sorry, Jonah, I've been in and out of homeschooling, so I missed quite a few things. But anyway, just if you were to give me 3 things to focus on attacking breakdown, things that I want to focus on, things I want to measure, just 3 things, what would they be, considering these new laws? 3 things,
yes,
that you would advise me to measure,
yeah,
on my attacking breakdown. Just 3 things.
So one would be ball carrier has got to be dynamic. All right. Second thing is focus on the ball carrier's evasion skills. Third thing is reaction time is going to be king. Win space over the ball. Win space over the ball. Reaction time has got to be king. And all those 3 things are linked into each other. Okay. If your ball carrier is not dynamic, you're in cock. Okay. If he's not focusing and good at evasion, you're in cock. If your reaction time into winning space over the ball is not there, you're in cock. So those 3 things for me is gonna be critical, and more so with the rules and how it's interpreted through different referees, because the rules is there, it's clear, but the interpretation of it's different to each referee.
Yeah. So, sorry, John. Perfect. I totally agree with it. But how would you define dynamic? How would you put that into words when you say the player must be dynamic? Evasion is pretty easy. Getting over the ball is pretty easy. Dynamic. How would you sort of define that?
So from a ball carrier's perspective, Rito?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, firstly, was there movement before he received the ball? Okay, that's measurable. Was there movement?
Yeah.
Yes, there was. Wasn't. Second thing, was there a change of pace with when he received the ball into the space that he went at? Measurable? Yes, it is. Third thing would be, did he fight to present the ball? Those three things.
Yeah.
Again, it's all measurable. So it's not rocket science. And you can go to the player and say, I mean, these are three things that I'm going to judge you on. And it's clear they know they've got to be dynamic, they've got to fight in contact, and they've got to present. And there's got to be a movement when receiving the ball.
Perfect. I totally agree, John. I think yeah, perfectly. I think we all know that the more you measure, you are able to measure things, the simpler it gets, and the easier it is for you to hold players accountable.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a simple drill. I mean, I like it. I've got this one drill. It's a simple. So I've got 3 bags in front of me, okay, and then I've got the ball carrier. Okay, I'm going to do that. So I've got the ball carrier moving in between 2 cones. On the whistle, or whether it's got on the left hand, or whether it's on the left or right, explode into one of these holes. Okay, so he's moving on the whistle. He's got to be dynamic into these holes, and then he can see. You know, that also encourages players to use their footwork in getting the ball and in stepping into one of these 2 spaces.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
Good stuff.
Jonathan, so it seems like none of the other coaches have questions. I've got a lot.
No, ask, bro.
Can I? So a lot of teams, so what I've picked up is a lot of teams, or let's say we have a set piece, that first breakdown, teams necessarily don't send in a lot of defenders because they believe attacking teams has got that under control. So
but what's a lot of defenders? Sorry, what's a lot of defenders?
Yeah, let's say, no, I mean attackers. So teams will, so they won't. So if you look at Super Rugby, a lot of the teams won't contest that first breakdown after the set piece because they believe the attacking team sorts that out. So from the where I want to head to is that your defensive team will always have advantage over attacking team with regards to numbers because we don't need to send in someone. So I'm heading to what is, because a lot of these are based on momentum. So what is quick recycling time in your view? Mm-hmm. So that's the first question is, and how do we exploit the defense to get them to the deck in order? Because if they're not going to attack the first breakdown, they've got numbers on their feet. So they might have 12, 13, 14, 15 on their feet. And how do you exploit them to get a number advantage from an attacking perspective?
Well, but I can almost tell you and put my head on the block that the reason why defensive teams don't send numbers into that first breakdown is because Joey Mongoli, who's the defense coach, he's pedantic about his system. So system for him, especially of a launch, or is important. So he will go and he will plan for 3-4 phases ahead within the system. Okay, so a lot of players will not go into that first breakdown unless there's a positive tackle or the attack has been stopped behind the advantage line. Now, I had a guy by the name of Gideon van der Merwe, who's now with Griquas. I coached him. If there's a positive tackle and the opportunity is there to get that ball, you go. But you have to be clear in when to go and when not to mess up the system. Because if you mess up the system, you're on your own. Then it's you and the defense coach. But if there's a positive tackle made between 9 and 10, okay, and we stopped him behind the advantage line, and you can get in there and get a turnover, I'm happy as a breakdown coach.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because the reason why I ask is a lot of people refer to the breakdown as a numbers game, and you want to always neutralize the numbers. And as I said, I go in the mindset that the defensive team will always have an advantage. So your aim should be to exploit them. So your aim should be to get as many defenders on the deck as possible in order to create that space. So if they're not going to sort out, if they're not going to contest it at first breakdown, then you need to work harder to pull in numbers in order to create that momentum and overlap. So that's going to be how you approach that first breakdown is going to be vital from a numbers perspective. So if you know a defensive team won't send in anyone, then you only need to send in one. So it becomes a decision making so that I have enough numbers, even taking in mind that I will always be one number less than them. So that's just the reason for the question.
Well, just another thing. I think, just to go 2 steps back, what you also need to remember, everything starts with that set phase. So if the defense team can't put pressure on that set phase, then the chances of them contesting that first ruck is not really big. But if they contest that set phase, then I promise you the loose forwards will smile because they know the chances of them getting there first is 100%. So set phase, then ruck, then system.
Yeah. So Coach Ash got a hand on here. So I just want to comment on that. So it's actually, you need to, in order for you to contest that first breakdown, you need to disrupt first and make it then. Okay. Yeah. But from an attacking mindset, so for me, that if they don't contest the first breakdown, then you must be aware that they've got numbers on their feet. So you must keep that in mind always. Yeah. Okay. So we've got there's 2 blue balls here, Coach Ash and then Coach David. The hands up. So you can go, gentlemen.
Hi guys. I actually want to add on, but first from the defensive side, what I noticed is that most teams, as Jonah said, that most teams use a system, and in most cases they don't commit more than 2 at most breakdowns, irrespective which phase of play it is. But what happens most of the time, what I do with my teams is that post breakdown is where we can commit more defenders, because as soon as a player goes down, he loses most of his rights to the ball. He needs to get the ball presented as quick as possible. But as long as he's still on his feet, the defenders are being kept occupied and they can draw in. So if I send in 4 players into that breakdown or into that contact, the ball carrier with 2 or 3 on his back, and they run onto the 2 defenders, and they can dominate that contact situation and start driving forward, the defensive team is forced to add on numbers to stop a minute more before we go into a breakdown. So I think just on the question of Doc, how to commit, or I think it's someone else, how to commit more players to the breakdown is maybe to have a small more prior to the going to ground and forcing the breakdown, and then having quick ball.
Yeah, it can work. Can definitely work. It's a different way of looking at it.
Jonna.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the presentation, brother. Very stimulating. Just on Doc's question and Ash spoke a bit about it. I think that how we can maybe engage more defenders, whether it's first, second, third plus phases, it's just the importance of that first arrival. Really making a good decision in terms of that breakdown like Doc spoke about, but also see how we can maybe get 1 or 2 guys occupied by actually holding them. Do you know what I mean?
Just say that again, there. You broke up a little bit.
That first arrival, how can he maybe obviously make a good decision and then maybe hold 1 or 2 players, and as he's working into that folding pathway. Because if he can really work post the ball carrier and he can actually grab 1 or 2 players with and actually work through, he can actually move into that folding pathway. Do you know what I mean? Of the defenders. And that gives us time to win the race around the corner. If that picture makes sense. Yes, I can see it, yeah.
So basically something like this.
That's exactly what I'm meaning. So that 5 you know, he's actually getting into the folding pathway
Yes.
of the
Spot on.
defenders. And if you can maybe grab another guy, you know, just be more aware of grabbing someone. So then we commit guys. So your first arrival cannot be there and he's there alone. He's not holding anyone or he's not moving into the folding pathway. Then we're losing that numbers battle. You know, so maybe just a thought on that.
No, and I think you're so right. And that's why even with the fireman, he's got three things that he needs to recognize. One, is there a offload opportunity? Okay. Second thing is it a 2-on-1? Is, you know, a 2-on-1 meaning two defenders onto the ball carrier? Or three, did the ball carrier dominate the contact and get into space and is fighting to present? Okay. From there, he will then decide what to do. If it's a 2-on-1 situation, smash the adjusting defender and getting into traffic. Okay. If the ball carrier dominated contact and got in behind him, win the space, win the race, win the space over the ball. Okay. Or if there's no one and opportunities there to pop, go for the ball then. Again, another way to keeping the defense moving.
Just to echo what you're saying, John, I think that apart from the ball carrier being the most important guy in terms of that quick ball recycling, that outside attacker, he becomes so important in terms of what decision he needs to make and what is the defensive team presenting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's got a front seat to the movie, and he needs to really communicate to that ball carrier. He can help that ball carrier being much more effective. So I agree with you. Yeah, I agree.
Just a question, Jonah.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned something about the defender that would sit on the outside of the head ball carrier.
Yeah.
To avoid the head ball carrier from obviously playing into that queen space, to avoid that turnover battle or contest coming from the from the catch-up defender.
Yeah.
How can you avoid the head ball carrier from going into that space if the defender is lined up on his outside?
You see, Jomani, this is again where it comes down to your analysis. So, as you've said, if the defense lines up on the outside of the main ball carrier, you've got to work on that main ball to get that tip going. Because, like I said, if you go into the queen, you'll probably get your ball back, but not as quick as you wanted. So you've got to work with your main ball carrier to throw that tip pass. And your fireman, he's got to flip and run as hard, and his role now becomes, and responsibility now becomes, to get into the king space.
Okay.
Answer your question?
I hear you. Yeah. No, it does. Because really so often it's difficult for that head ball carrier, to get on that outside shoulder. So he has to have the option. Because otherwise, if he holds on to that ball, he's only forced to go into that queen space,
Absolutely.
which you don't want ideally. So it makes sense now that he has to look for that.
Has to look for
option.
And that fireman has always, even if he gets the ball and goes, that fireman has always got to be an option. Always got to be an option. Always got to be an option. Always staying alive, because Not that Kabamba could do it, but in his days when he plays, he could actually do the offload, in contact. And as long as you keep that alive, you'll still be in control.
Sure. Thanks, John.
Jonah, so if there's I've got another one. So let's say you spoke earlier about your defensive team, you want that tackler to normally disrupt. Let's say I play against you, or you need to play against yourself. How would you approach it from an attacking perspective? If you know someone he's going to try and disrupt the whole time. How would you set up your breakdown?
So you asking if I had to play against myself and I
Yes.
apply my principles that
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, because you just applied, let's say your defensive principle is I want to disrupt every breakdown that I go in as a tackler. How would you attack against yourself?
So basically, I would then give my my policeman more responsibility and get him a little bit closer. Okay, so he's got to be, once that contact is made and the tackle has been made, he's got to smash and fly in into the first guy who made the tackle. Let's say Adi Sevilla. So his responsibility becomes now to disrupt Adi Sevilla, and the policeman then will just take over win the space over the ball. Okay, so a lot of times you'll see teams, the catch up or the policeman would come and he would just pull and drag, and he's part of the ruck, but he would pull the Adi Sevilla who made the tackle.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so you actually just want to play a bit tighter. If you know a team is going to disrupt
from the inside, from
yeah.
Let's say from my policeman side.
Yeah, that's just and then I want to go into training, because this is actually, because we've got the tactical side now. Is how much time? Let's say and we can break it down into pre-season and in competition. How much time do you spend on the breakdown, and what is the percentage breakdown of technique versus skill?
Very good question, Bala. So I've always, starting in my pre-season, in my second block, which is about 4 weeks, because at Varsity Cup, your pre-season is about 6 weeks long. So your first 2 would be conditioning, skill set based, and then your last 3-4 weeks, it will be starting, contact and those kind of things. So for me, what I always do, I do the rucking right at the end of my session. Okay. So why I do that, I almost feel that players now need to be switched on mentally when they're fatigued to still getting the detail right. Okay. And I'll always start with the ball carrier. Okay, not just getting having the ability to get into that spaces, and then in single blocks. So it will never be again a live body on body. It will always be amongst bags. Because again, like I said, for me it's important to be able to do that same skill when you fatigue. Then I'll move on to the cleaner, where I bring in a little bit of a challenge, where let's say a tackle bag in the middle. So a guy on the other side and the cleaner laying on this side, head to head. On the whistle, they'll jump up and there's a race of winning the space over the ball. Again, at the end of the season, at the end of the session, they tired, they murtu, and they're still wanting to be challenged getting that space over the ball. So in general, in season, I'd say about 70%. Rocking would be technique. Okay, the rest would be in the gym, movement, evasion, that type of skill. Where pre-season, I'd almost put about 90%, in terms of technique and skill, putting it together.
Okay. So any other questions, gentlemen?
Yeah, so sorry, Wilbur, to take you back. Just something technical, Jonah, to take you back to the ball carrier, man. Looking at this picture, for instance, that you have, would you not also say that the way the ball carrier falls is also important? Because obviously, if he falls and his head is facing the ruck, it's easier for the catch-up defender. So ideally, you would want him to fall with the head position, away from the, away from where the ball is coming from. Makes it easier for the scrum off as well. Makes it difficult for the catch-up defender to get on the ball, but also for the scrum off. You can see the legs are on the way.
Yes.
And it can affect that quick ball as well. Just thought to point that
No, you're
out.
right, Chumani, and that's why I said, the only thing in this picture that I thought could have been done better is the ball carrier falling in a better position. But one thing you also remember is that as much as the attackers got certain skills in getting into spaces, the defense also come up with plans to tackle and disrupt the natural flow of the ball carrier. So there was a situation over the weekend where I think a tackle was made on the fullback or last weekend on the fullback of the Highlanders, and it was a one-on-one, but the tackle was so good that the fullback didn't have a choice but to land on his back. Now, when you land on your back, that's heaven for any guy who contests, because you've got a broad space, nice and ball is nice and high, and you can get in and turn over. Now, if you ask that fullback, he probably will tell you that that's not how we planned to land, but because the tackle was so good, the tackle then dominated and dictated how the ball carrier landed on.
Sure.
Make sense?
Sure. Yes, no, it does. Sorry if I missed it.
No, all good, all good.
Point.
Well done as a back coach, though.
Absolutely. John, and David presented on attack about 2 weeks ago. He presented something on attack, and how important is your breakdown philosophy within your attacking shape? Because you spoke about having a diamond shape breakdown approach, and David spoke about he's got a different shapes at different parts of the field. How do you integrate that?
Well, I think, and I actually had a discussion about last week with someone just about the breakdown. The breakdown is becoming as important as your set phases, if not more, because there's more breakdowns in the game than there is set phases, and so that's why it blows my mind that a lot of teams don't really pay attention to the breakdown. And so if I was a head coach now at a Super Rugby franchise, I'd probably get in someone to only and purely focus on breakdown. Because again, you can have, it's no use you get the ball from your set phase, your line out, your scrum, but after that, you don't know what to do with it. Unless you're kicking team who gets the ball kicked, poof, gets the ball kicked, poof. But at some stage, you're going to have to set up the ball or set up a rack.
Voila, Kabamba, yeah.
Yes, Kabamba.
Yes, Jonah. Yes, Jonah started his presentation with a quote. So I think in South Africa that the quote that you said out there is that less contact. So what I say is that don't you think that in South Africa our tech is too weak? It's not good enough. That's why there's so much breakdowns. So if our tech will be better and our players identifying the space better and understanding the tech more and better, won't we have less breakdowns, more line breaks, more meters gained, and then there'll be less breakdowns. So don't you think we should focus more, the breakdown coach with the attacking coach more, and first work on the tech, let we strengthen the tech, and then we create less racks, and then we don't need to focus so much on the breakdown. So as you see now in the way that you said there's more breakdown now, then we're going back to more breakdowns is more slower ball. But yes, we want to create that quick ball. So how do you create quick ball? Better tech, better alignment, work into the space, get the line breaks. So we must be careful around how we talk about the tech in the attacking breakdown and how we talk about the defense in the defensive breakdown, because a good attack manipulates any defensive system. So you can go through them, can go around them. You must be in control at that time in what you want to do. If you want to play against a strong defensive team, there's certain ways to block out fetchers, to block out defenders, and to get that 3-5 meters around them. You just need momentum to keep all fetchers out of the game. So we should focus more on proper attack and vision and equip our players with a attacking skill set. And then they'll understand that a better attacking skill set will create much less and more effective breakdowns. Thank you.
Spot on, Kabamba. Firstly, congratulations. The fact that you could read that English, Kabamba, that's very, 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 very smart. Very smart. You know, I think the reality is, in an ideal world, you know, when you attack, you always want momentum. You always want to get over the advantage line. You always want to see the space and go into that space. But as you know, or everyone knows, that defense is becoming stronger as well. Okay? And that's why I say, only when the defense has done their job, then a ruck should happen. Okay? When you as an attacking team have got the ability in contact to offload, you'll stand in control.
Yes.
Okay? So when the defense made the proper tackle and they managed to smother, okay, or get their hands on the ball and slow it down, me would be creating and creating space, looking for the offload, throwing the flat pass, the chip kicks, the game we're playing today. It's not going to happen. And if ever I should pass away and this does happen, please come. Ideally, it's ideally as an attacking team, you want to keep the ball alive and get momentum and get over the advantage line and keep playing. But it doesn't happen.
Yes, but the thing is, then we should focus more then on our attacking side and our skill set. The reason why I say that is the easiest way to get momentum is your first phase. If your strike is right, your setup is right, from a lineout, from a scrum, from wherever, it's the easiest to get momentum. So you should get momentum of any phase if you attack properly. And from there, you need to be able for players to identify, get the awareness, see where the space is and play to the space, because you want momentum at all time. So whenever you don't get momentum, then it's not the system, it's then the skill set and the ability and the awareness of the individual. So don't you think that we should focus more on the individual and get that skill set right? And from there, we will get the flowing, quick ball, proper 1 to 3 second breakdown rucks. If you look at the I'm just making an example because only New Zealand is playing now. If you look at how they attack, have South African fetchers ever been effective against New Zealand teams? Here and there, 1, 2, 3 penalties. But no, why? Because they understand the attacking awareness. They understand how to block a guy in, how to create the space, when to set up a close ruck. They never set up a ruck next to a ruck within 10 meters if that fetcher or that guy that compete is not there. If that guy is there, they'll set that ruck up, block him in getting out and go wide. If he's not there, they'll move the ball in that space because they know they want to box him, they want to block him. So we need to coach more clever and manipulate that defense more. So if we look at analyzing, I think that we should look at it just as a defense as another obstacle that I want to manipulate that system. But it's not the coach won't know what he's doing, but the players don't understand the coach mindset. So you need to go deeper into them, work with them individually, break them down. A prop needs to know the role of a center. A fly-off needs to know how to be a BC, how to be as you say, a fireman, how to be a policeman. So he needs to know all that role sets, but we break these things so up that rucks is for forwards, loose forward, flanker. You never put a 9 at ball carrier and a 10 at fireman and a center at police. We don't do those things. Why not? Why don't we go and change the roles and make this whole coaching fraternity a hybrid thing? I think we should, as if you like, you know, I'm coaching with a junior, so I'm getting guys out from different school sets. So they come here with different roles, different responsibilities, different game plans. So for me to be able to get them at the level where they need to be equipped and developed for the senior market team is to go out there and identify, let them identify all the roles and skill them up with all the skill sets. I think we shouldn't just go and say, okay, it's easy for you guys at Super Rugby or at Currie Cup to go and say, you don't get the fulfill package, the package with everything there. You first need to go back again, tick the box, and test that guy's skill set, because we need to focus more on the attacking side of our players. If you can attack and you understand attack, I'm telling you, you'll understand breakdown, you'll understand defense, you'll understand kicking game, you'll understand everything. But our South African players don't understand attacking principle.
No, you're right. You're right, Kabamba. You're definitely right. But I think, you know, it's unfortunately we've been molded in this way of set up, put camera on the corner, stamp daar, nog een daar, you know, and the more we can move away from that and actually understanding that our first principle is creating momentum. When we do that, that's A for away.
Be the difference,
Yeah.
Jonah. We have the opportunity now to be the difference.
Kabamba.
Jonah.
Yes.
Yeah, Koester?
Sorry, there can go. Sorry.
Remember, we as South Africans gave a guy like Richie Gray a job. You know, the more we've created so many breakdowns, we need to employ breakdown coaches. So we've created a job for these specialists. There was never a specialist, a breakdown specialist in rugby, but because of the amount of breakdowns, and maybe it comes from, like Kabamba is saying, it comes from the mentality that we've created within our ball carriers. We've created a ruck mentality. We've created hit the first target, go down mentality, instead of let's see how we can create the line break.
A line break, yes.
No, a line break mentality. So
Absolutely.
And that's my challenge with coaching breakdown. If you coach breakdown and you just want to tell the ball carrier hit the target so we can work on the first and second arrival, then what mindset are you actually creating with the BC, which is the ball carrier? So your breakdown always needs to start off, look at BC, where's the space, attack space, and then see if you can, you know, look for that breakdown or that line break, sorry. So your first and second arrival needs to be alive for pre-contact decision or in-contact decision before we go for that breakdown. But I think we've created jobs for the Richie Grays of this world. So, I mean, that's a great challenge to ask, Kabamba, and thanks for just making us aware of it.
I hear what you're saying there. But why would you then need a let's say a scrum coach or a line-out coach then? If there's more breakdowns in the game than there is of line-outs and scrums.
But what Kabamba is alluding to is your attack coaches needs to understand the breakdown. So you don't need another guy in your budget or in your team, management team, to do the breakdown. Your attack coaches, I mean, from my perspective, I don't want a rucking coach. I want to do my own attacking rucks. Okay. Because I feel that ruck specialists could maybe mess with my ball carriers mentality.
Dave, can I just add on that? Because I'm doing the attack, I'm a forward, so I'm the head coach, I'm doing the attack. So I think that any head coach must do the attack. Either way, the backline coach can do the attack, everything. But if I'm the attacking coach in my team, I want to do the attack. So what I'm saying is that putting me as a tech coach, I've seen this, and now you have a breakdown coach. It confused the whole thing because you coach against each other. Because as Jonah said earlier, that he had a flanker, so that flanker. He tell him that first rack, if that opportunity presents himself, go for it. But if you miss and you bugger up, and then the defensive system's out of the way, then you're on your own. So there's a lot of lapses in a system if there's different approaches in it. But if you have the right attacking mindset, then the right attacking mindset, skill sets of vision, awareness will be there. So then the guys automatically know that attacking mindset goes into the breakdown. He knows he must go into the space, hit the target, score the try, as Jonah said, place the ball, the fireman must be there, the the policeman must be on song. So fireman for the offload policeman. So that's one role in responsibility, and it's one mouth, one coaching stream, and it's not different mindset, different voices. Players get confused with different voices, different mindsets, and because the attack and the breakdown is one flow, it needs to be the one voice.
Yeah. Jonah.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Tuster.
Yeah, just with a couple of points that yourself and Kabamba mentioned. You know, speaking of momentum, and I mean, as an attack coach, you always want to find ways on how you can manipulate that defense and generate momentum and quick ball. Now, I think also as attack coaches, we mustn't just coach our players to respond from momentum only. There are so many opportunities that can also be created in terms of how to find space after you've gone back that second, third, fourth phase. I'll make an example. If you watched this past weekend, the Hurricanes playing the Crusaders. They had a ball, I think, just outside the Crusaders' 22-meter line. They were smashed back after 3, 4, 5 phases, and they were in their back 50. But guess what? They were patient enough to be able to find space on the outside because of how the Crusaders' defense unfolded. And they went and scored a try. Secondly, you watch the Blues play against the Chiefs. First phase, from a line out, they got hit behind the advantage line. And on second phase, they got a line break because they were able to manipulate, or they did their homework enough to know that if you hit it in that middle channel and you come back on the blind side, there's always space against the Chiefs. And they were obviously rewarded for that. And their second phase was in the opposition 22. They played 2 phases and they went and scored. So the point I'm making is it's good that we coach the principle of momentum, because yes, with momentum you find quick ball and so forth, but we've got to be able to also coach our players to adapt to situations where they must maybe be patient enough to hold on to the ball, even if that 2, 3 phases you're going backwards. And one last point, I actually made a point on the group. I was watching the Chiefs holding on to the ball against the Blues, and I was asking, they're not going anywhere, but yet they're still holding on. But then again, if you've been watching the game, the Blues were conceding so many penalties in the breakdown. So they could be saying, it's okay, let's hold on to the ball. Yes, the conditions are wait, but if we hold on to the ball long enough, they're gonna concede a penalty, you know? So those are also some of the things as coaches we've gotta be watchful for.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks, John.
Yeah. So before Coach Jacques also got a question. So now I just want to, and it gets back to what Kabamba and Coach David, they was discussing now about, so contact is an integral part of the game. Shouldn't we then maybe move to, rather than calling it a breakdown coach, a contact coach? Because even if you want to offload, that's part of contact. If we want to, as a tackler, you also need to have good contact skills. So rather call it a contact coach than a breakdown coach, because it's an integral part of the game, and we can't move away from that. And just talking from a science perspective, if you've got proper contact technique, there's always that it decreases the risk of injury. And sometimes what attacking coaches and defenses coaches neglect is these small skills.
Absolutely.
It's safe, and they want to look broad, and they don't look at what provides you with that momentum, what provides you with that quick ball. And sometimes we say, I want quick ball as an attacking coach, but how do you get that quick ball? And it starts with, you mentioned something earlier. You said at the beginning, this is your view, and I think that is important also to mention. Everyone's got a different approach on how they play the game, or how they want to coach the game. And I think this approach links into how you play the game. You like the contact part of the game. So that's also important. And shouldn't we sometimes, when we set out a philosophy and a way of attacking, look at the skill set of what we have and play to that strength? Because if I've got a big pack and they don't have we're working on skills and we're working on offloading, but it takes time to develop. But we can punch rucks, we can create momentum with our rucks. I'm going to use that because that is my strength. So I think that is also important to mention. And yes, we need to look at ways to improve our attack, but we also need to look at our strengths, what we have. It's no use. I wanna drive like a Ferrari, but I've got a Beetle engine.
Yeah.
So
now you spot on,
Coach
Wilbur, and that thing that you just said now of planning with what you have, that thing is so critical, because a lot of coaches, we've got this plan, we want to do this, we want to do that, but meanwhile the fly half can't even pass to his left, or the inside left center can't really step or whatever. So that thing is critical.
So yeah, Coach, I've got a couple of questions. So if his first thing was, how much time do you spend on breakdown during a match week? And what days do you spend it on? I think that is also important to that question.
So I've got about, in a match week, I'd say I'd spend about 2 days, which will consist of let's say 20 minutes per day on Raki, 10 to 20 minutes per day on Raki. And sometimes it's not even full on. It's just to get the energy up, getting the guys, the neural systems firing, and getting the action time over the bag. If I feel I've gone so far to ruck before a game or on the captains, because I felt that the boys weren't really mentally switched on, and there wasn't that willingness to muscle up into contact. So what I did, then I pack at our station, at a captains, and we go full on and ready for the next game. I almost feel, for me, doing a little bit of rucking on the captains or the day before is always for me work, because I feel it goes over and it carries into the game, because players are not fired up and the neural systems is firing. Even in the warm-up, I've done it in a warm-up where I felt that there was a bit of a lethargicness with the boys, and I needed something to get them firing, and then I go into a rucking situation. I've never touched wood. I've never picked up any injuries. It's so far so good.
So that links onto the earlier discussion, the second question of Coach Jockeys. But even though we're having a mindset of attacking the space, don't you think we should prepare and train the team to expect gang tackle and double eats to secure possession?
Yeah, again, that's just, you pick that up in your analysis. If you see they obviously you kind of see which teams likes double tackle, which teams like leg chops. You pick that up and then you plan accordingly. Not all teams are strong in whatever system they're trying to apply.
Yeah, I think that, Jonah, I'm going to ask the last question. If there's no other questions, so rugby is evolving every day. So in your view, where will we see rugby in 5 or 6 years?
I almost think, if I have a look at the way world rugby is going and what they're trying to achieve in opening up games and having more ball in play time, I almost think we're slowly but surely moving into a rugby league type of thing, where there's going to be less breakdowns, more opportunity for the attacking team to keep the ball, and then on certain phases you're going to have to kick. Already we're seeing teams that's got a three-phase kick policy, so they'll keep the ball for 3 phases, and after that they'll kick it. And then also at the same time, we kind of see IRB trying to speed up the game and allowing the attacking team to play. So I think almost close to rugby league type of thing.
Okay. Thanks for that, Jonah. Jonah, thanks for your time, and I know this is a passion of you, and I think there's opportunity maybe for you to educate as well, because I think skills coaches we don't really have a focus on skill coach development in South Africa. Everyone wants to be attacking, and we don't look at the fundamentals. I think that's lacking. And there's maybe an opportunity for you to start your own coaching education through the breakdown drills and develop drills and stuff to educate coaches. And I know this is a passion of you, and I've seen it since your playing days. And good luck for you as well. And
Thank you.
Wherever you go and what your plans are. And thanks for your time, and also always be willing to share and have a quick chat. I think there's a lot of knowledge on this group, and I think this chat will go on and continue for ages, and that's important in rugby. I think we're so struck on getting a certificate or a diploma. We're not looking at the ongoing education and to equip ourselves, and that is important. That's what we're lacking. So yeah, and I think hopefully this is a start of having more technical discussions on the game, have specialists like you yourself, and hopefully Kabamba, if you don't mind, if we can present something on how you believe attack should to evolve, that would also be great, because I like you made some valuable points there on our attack, and I actually challenged David on this when he presented how will attack exploit defense, and that's exactly what you're referring to. So that could be a great presentation. Kabamba, if you're willing to, we can set up something maybe for next week. And I think that will, maybe with David and Shamani, all the attack coaches, maybe have one type of presentation on this philosophy. We're trying. Yeah, so
it would be great.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment, Welper. Just to mention that if you guys at some stage see a good more coming from the Kings, and also quick rucks at some stage in the future, you must know that Jonah has a lot to do with that. And also don't worry, Jonah, even though I'm the tech coach and we're probably working together, I'll still let you do the rucks. Unlike David, who says he doesn't want
me to rock.
You must just take in mind, so David is off the garage spies and the stage stumpy, so he becomes slim. That's why he wants to play the attacking game.
Look here, context is everything, boy. I don't want an NFL management team with 6 ruck coaches, skill coach. This budget is a big problem. Budget is a big problem.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Jonah. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, gents. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.